Hello, everyone. And my name is Ernest. I am a program analyst for Maryland WIC, and I'm here having a conversation with one of our breastfeeding experts. Could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Kimberly Myers, and I am the Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Coordinator for Greater Baden WIC.
Hi, Kimberly. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for taking time to talk about the work that you do. Can we just start a little bit about yourself? How did you get into this work?
Well, it's kind of a long story, really.
Mm,
I guess I should start with the birth of my son. That's kind of how everything started. So after I delivered, late at night, a nurse kind of came into the room, it was like
mm,
around 2 a.m., and she kind of came into the room holding a bottle of formula. And she
uh-huh.
said, "Oh, your son is losing weight and you really need to feed him the formula quickly."
Right, right.
And, woken up out of sleep, I wasn't quite, sure what was going on. I hadn't really kind of entered this world of maternal child health. And so I ended up using the formula, but I mentioned it the next day and I was able to get the help. So that kind of started the whole process because I kind of felt like what other women are actually having this type of experience. And that kind of led my journey into kind of where I am now.
So the nurse came in and it almost sounds like breastfeeding wasn't even presented as an option for you.
No, it was not presented as an option, even though it was listed on the crib card that my baby was a breastfeeding exclusive only baby.
Huh, okay. And it's 2 a.m., so you obviously weren't in the best state to make, important decisions at that time.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. How much mileage do you get out of guilt tripping your son with that story?
I don't really give him any because
Okay.
it really wasn't his, if I can say the word fault, it really was not his fault.
Mm,
I think it was just kind of the same thing that a lot of women are still experiencing today, where, some nurses, not all, are just not really versed in breastfeeding and the benefits of breastfeeding. And they seem to think that formula and breast milk are interchangeable, equally the same, and they're not.
right,
So
right.
that actually started my journey. But moving forward, in 2003, I got a job at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services under the Department of Health and under the Department of Minority Health. So it was the Office of Minority Health and then the division of the Office of Minority Health Resource Center. And there I was an information specialist, but me and another young lady, a director of communications, we spearheaded a campaign. It was a national print and radio campaign to deal with the high rates of infant mortality within the African American community. And so that
Right.
campaign was called "A Healthy Baby Begins With You." So I kind of think from there is where I got really entrenched in more of the maternal child health.
Okay. And so how did you get from there to, I
Where I
mean,
am now.
where you are now, like in Greater Baden?
So moving from the Office of Minority Health Resource Center, I was able to be written into a contract with the Adventist Healthcare. And there I actually managed all of the logistics for their Black Mothers breastfeeding support group. And Adventist actually got a grant through NACHO, and they partnered with the Black Mothers Breastfeeding Association. And actually, one of the founders for the Black Mothers Breastfeeding Association is also the founder for the Black Breastfeeding Week. And so we partnered with her and we were able to do breastfeeding. So after that contract ended, for me, I felt it was natural progression to kind of move more into the breastfeeding field. And that's how I ended up at Greater Baden.
Right, yeah. Now we are talking to you because this week is Black Breastfeeding Week, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. But I wanted to actually just step back a little bit and talk more about breastfeeding in general, because when I got into this line of work, I'm gonna admit that I didn't know that much about breastfeeding. I obviously am never going to actually breastfeed anyone, but um, I think there's this kind of popular idea that breastfeeding is natural, so everybody should just know how to do it. And I never thought about it, but actually, a lot of people don't really know the mechanics of breastfeeding, and how, people think that it's just got to be instinct, right? So if it's not working, then there must be something wrong, but that's not really true, is it?
No, I mean, on one hand, it is instinct if you look at it from the aspect of this is what a woman's body is supposed to do. So on
Sure,
that aspect, it is instinct.
sure.
Can it be, really easy for some women? Sure, it can. Can it be hard for some other women? It certainly can.
Hmm.
So, the thing is that if moms, if this is something that they want to do, learning all of the benefits, not only for baby, but for also for mom, if this is something that they want to do, the help is there, particularly within the WIC program. So in one instance, it can be a little bit of, that womanly instinct, but some women, they struggle a little bit and they need a little bit of help, and that's why we're here.
Right. What's your favorite tip that you like to give to mothers who want to breastfeed?
So I guess my favorite tip for moms is just to relax and go with the flow.
Okay.
Um, as I said before, so for some moms it can be difficult. And in it being difficult, a lot of times moms, they kind of think that it's them, that it's their fault, or that the
Sure.
baby is rejecting them, or rejecting the breast milk, or rejecting
Hmm.
their breast, and that simply is not the case. So you just kind of have to be patient with it. Typically, it takes about 4 to 6 weeks for mom and baby to learn how to breastfeed. So, I encourage moms, if they can, because some moms do return to work a little earlier than they want to, but if they can, to take that time as not only a feeding time or nursing time, but a time to also learn and bond with your baby.
Sure, sure. Um, Now, so this is Black Breastfeeding Week,
Mhm.
and we're doing that because we know, actually, from our own internal records and statistics, that women of color are actually less likely to breastfeed than their white counterparts.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to get your thoughts about what's going on there. Are there structural issues? Are there cultural issues? Or what are you seeing um, that might be behind this?
So I think there's a lot of things, but what I feel is that the root cause is education, just
Okay.
making sure that moms are well educated. And that can be through her family and friends. It can also be through her healthcare provider,
Hmm.
also within the community. Education is the key for moms to really understand how to nurse and to understand the benefits. That's one of the barriers that I see. The second
Right.
barrier that I see is that moms, um, particularly in the WIC program, they have to return to work very quickly.
Right.
Some moms don't get that long extended time that's needed to, one, learn how to breastfeed and also establish the milk supply. So moms are returning to work a little bit quicker than they really need to, and helping them to establish a good bonding and a good milk supply. So those are mainly the two things that I see. And if those things could kind of be adjusted so that moms are well educated and maybe educated prior to them getting pregnant, just understanding the benefits. And if I may say too, within our community, it's very important, I feel, for African American moms to breastfeed because of the enormous benefits that it has. So it helps to lessen the risk of type 2 diabetes,
Right.
breast cancer, and it also can help with cardiovascular disease. So
Right.
those are the things that are prevalent within our community. And I think that by moms being educated and knowing that it's not really just about the baby, even though that is very important, it's also about the mom. So if moms can maybe look, within their family, well, does your mom have type 2 diabetes? Or does your mom,
Yeah.
has she ever had breast cancer? breast milk can be that key to kind of help lessen that risk and kind of bring down some of those statistics and close that gap that a lot of African Americans have.
Now, speaking of the benefits, you've talked about the reduced risk of diabetes and the health benefits for the baby. There are also benefits for mom too, right? Didn't I read somewhere that it can actually help mom lose weight post-pregnancy too if she breastfeeds?
Yes, it does, because you're
Okay,
actually sharing calories. And so if not, think of that as a really good motivator
right.
to kind of breastfeed, is to um, lose a little bit of weight.
Yeah,
That's always
yeah,
a real good go-to for a lot of moms. But the type 2 diabetes as well as the breast cancer, really are benefits for mom as well.
yeah. Now, we talk a lot in our program about support for breastfeeding, and the way I understand it, because of the work I do, is that support means social support, from your family and friends. But I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what you mean when you say support for breastfeeding. What does that term mean to you?
So, if I can take it from relating to moms coming into the WIC office. So,
Hmm.
when moms come in and they're pregnant, they'll meet with a breastfeeding counselor to talk
Such
about
as yourself?
such as myself, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And they'll talk about everything centered around breastfeeding. We talk about just getting started with breastfeeding, things to look for when you're in the hospital and your milk is going to come in, or if you've left the hospital, what to look for when your milk is coming in. We talk about I talk a little bit about childbirth, only because I'm a certified childbirth educator. So I allow moms to ask me some questions, because not many moms know that childbirth actually can affect breastfeeding as well.
Oh,
So
really? How?
yes. So depending on what type of anesthesia mom is given, that can affect breastfeeding. If it's been a long labor, that can affect breastfeeding. If mom has been given a lot of IV fluid, excuse me,
Hmm.
that can also affect breastfeeding. So I kind of give them a little bit of information on that end, because what I find is that the moms who come into the WIC program, they're not taking childbirth education classes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And so this education, you're saying basically that it's less available to the Black community?
I don't think it's less available to the Black
Okay.
community. Um, I just don't think in some cases it's encouraged.
Right.
Um, and in some cases, I think moms think that they can just Google search everything, and
Mm,
you really can't. And what I tell my moms is that Google works on algorithms. So what you
yep.
type in is what you're going to get back.
Right.
It's what you do to the left or the right that you may not be getting that forms the complete circle of the information that you need to have. And that's the thing that I don't think some moms feel that they can have, or feel that feel that they get enough that they need from Google, and they simply do not. In a childbirth setting, in a childbirth class setting, just as in a prenatal breastfeeding class setting, which we do offer at the WIC program, you're there with other moms. And
Hmm.
so one mom may have a question, and then that mom is like, oh, I had the same question, but maybe
Right.
is afraid to ask that question, or, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't think about that. So it provides more of that wraparound kind of well-rounded education that moms may be missing, to make them more educated once they go into the hospital. Because sometimes when we go into the hospital, things are, a little taken away from moms, if I may.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I think that's where a lot of moms may lose their traction, if I can use that word, moving towards breastfeeding.
And in hospitals, I mean, not just for childbirth, but for everything, they're really trying to process things through very fast, and they're trying to, like, there's 5 different kinds of paperwork that they've got to do for everything. So I can see how that would get kind of lost. And I guess the role of people like you is to step in there and remind people that remind mothers that this is important, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
yes, and like I was saying before, once that pregnant mom does come into WIC and we provide her with that prenatal breastfeeding class, we then follow that mom. So we have set
Hmm.
times that we call the mom and we ask, do you have any questions related to breastfeeding? We provide them with, a whole lot of resources that they would not normally get if they were not in the program. And then once they deliver, we then follow them pretty much every week up
Right.
until about the fourth week, and then we move to every 2 weeks. And then after that, we follow them every month. So we're calling them every month until they decide to wean their baby. So we're here for them. And even though we
You're kind of
have,
like their buddy.
yeah, we are their buddies.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're their buddies. And so even though we have our set times to call, they can call us anytime throughout the day if they have any questions, and we'll, sit and we'll talk with them, we'll troubleshoot with them. And sometimes it's just that's all that mom needs is just
Hmm.
that little bit of encouragement to keep going. And I think we as breastfeeding moms, we've all been there. I mean, I've been there,
Right.
especially when I turned back to work. So I have 2 kids. I have a son and I have a daughter. With my daughter, I ended up breastfeeding for about 14 months. With my son, I breastfed for 3.
Right.
And we didn't have a lot of the really good laws that moms have now where you can pump at work with my son. But with my daughter, it was a little bit more, it was a lot easier to do. So, just being able to provide that support. And like I said, we have all been there. I know when I returned back to work with my daughter, particularly, I was kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it all, pump and do my job and still be able to breastfeed. So we all come to points as breastfeeding moms. We all come to points where we just need some level of encouragement, and that's what we're there for as breastfeeding peer counselors. And then we also can educate the family. So if I did not have
Yeah.
my husband and my mom, my parents, my sisters, kind of encouraging me, maybe I would have stopped a little bit earlier, and me nor my baby would have gotten all of the benefits that she and I could have gotten. So that's very important, which we find too is that educating the whole family sometimes is critical.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Um, so, um, what is one tip that you want to give to our viewers before we wrap up the video?
I would just say let's go with the theme. The theme is to revive, restore,
Hmm.
and reclaim. So why don't we do all of those things, revive, restore, reclaim, and make breastfeeding normal, the
Okay.
normal feeding method for babies.
Yeah. Great. So to wrap this up, I'm just going to remind everybody who is viewing this, um, we at the Maryland WIC program, we are here for you. And if you need any help, one thing that a lot of people don't know is that half of all babies who are born are actually eligible for WIC. So even though you may not think so, there's a pretty good chance that there's help and resources out there available for you. So I am going to put our email address and our phone number and our website into the video somewhere. It might be, I don't know if I'm pointing at it. I'm putting it in later, so it's going to go in there somewhere. And Kimberly, thank you so much for doing this interview with us. And for those of you who live in Prince George's County in the Greater Baden area, maybe you'll get to meet and work with Kimberly.
Yes, I hope so.
All right.
Thank you so much, Ernest. I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.